Blast off! Oh, I came everywhere.
This is Robert Stark. I am joined here with a liberal revolutionary.
That liberal revolution. Say it right or pay the price.
Liberal. This is Robert. Oh, let's do it again with a 3, 2, 1 blast off.
Okay.
Okay, let's do it like that.
Okay.
Okay, start again.
3, 2,
2,
1.
Blast off!
Woo!
Yeah.
This is Robert Stark. I'm joined here with a liberal revolution. Great to have you on. What revolution are you up to today?
Well, I've been really focusing on some new agendas, mainly pushing the wonderful beauty of abortion. We the left have left that to the wayside. We need to focus more on, can we get into fetuses being used for more than just sucking their brains out? Can they be used for sustenance? And maybe can they be used as a way to help push ethical pedophilia? Because if you can stick a pair of scissors into a six-month-old fetus's head, then why can't you stick something else in there, if you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and you were at Comet Pizza the other day ordering. What's your favorite pizza there?
I like it with extra cheese, a hot dog, and a side of walnuts.
Oh, that sounds... I have never tried it with walnuts before. Must be very crunchy.
You should try it with walnuts. And I like my cheese aged no more than a year. I don't like it too strong, if you know what I mean, with a sundae at the end.
And Pilleater's here. Pilleater, does that pizza appeal to you?
I like a lot of pizza places. Walnuts sound interesting, but depending what kind of walnuts, I don't know. Walnuts with pizza is interesting. But yeah, it's nice for Liberal Revolution to be on because he can give us... Because I'm kind of interested what today's culture wars are up to, so...
Well, right now we have a bunch of crazies out there that think that there's a child molestation ring going on at Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C. just because John Podesta had his emails linked that had a coded map and all kinds of words which the FBI has already described as being a pedophilia jargon and jive talk. That has nothing to do with the fact that he hangs out at Comet Pizza, and, well, I won't get into it now. But I don't think being a member of the occult is strange either. I think it's okay that we embrace all religions, even if you're an occultist. Don't you all agree?
What about esoteric kekism? Is that a form of occultism that you prefer?
Well, I'm a trans-religious atheist, so I couldn't really tell you. I just kind of don't go that deep in religion. I just kind of take it superficially and say, oh yeah, all religions are the same and equal. That's why I like Islam. It's a religion of peace. However, Christianity has a lot of sin and horrible things it's done, and I really think Christianity is oppressive. However, all religions are equal. See, this is called, my real religion is Igsoc, Orwellian doublethink. That's what I embrace.
And also join here with HAarlem VEnison.
Hey, how's it going?
Delicious. Oh, you're like a deer. You're like a big deer steak, aren't you? We got a shark and we got a deer. Look at this, and we got a Pilleater.
Yes.
HAarlem, have you
right here
ever had any experiences with the same sex?
Not well. It depends on what you mean by experiences. Maybe, maybe not. I once gave my friend a blowjob, and yeah, you might say.
And what was that? Well, Liberal Revolution, have you ever done your friend a favor like that?
What kind of question is that? I give favors like that like it's going out of style, honey. I mean, it's been kind of lonely since Ronaldo left me, but let me tell you something. I give that out like an old man gives out pieces of candy.
What race do you prefer?
Well, you know, here's the thing. You really have to balance it out. I think all non-cis sex is really wonderful, and it's really, wonderful and egalitarian. So if you are a person without color, I think the only way you can be moral in a sexual manner is to basically become part of the LGBTQ community and get with the queer experience. So I'll do them all, but I think it's most virtuous to be in an interracial relationship, provided that I can find a way to create some mental gymnastics around that situation to make myself seem more moral and virtuous.
Cool.
This is interesting.
How about you, honey? What color was your friend's ding dong?
He was white.
And are you one of these haplo Asian types?
No, I'm not.
He's probably
I'm just white.
He's probably talking to me, but do you find me attractive?
I find you attractive.
That's nice.
Do you prefer twinks or bears?
You know, first of all, let me ask you all a question. Let's play a game. How old is TJ? How old do you guys think the liberal revolution is?
Old enough to be a lover?
48.
Oh my God, you son of a... that really is mean, 48. Pilleater, you've actually watched my videos. You see pictures of me. How old do you think I am?
Pretty...
32.
Probably, you might be late 20s. I don't know. Maybe a daddy.
Oh, that makes me feel a lot better.
Well, weren't you a professor at Columbia like 20 years ago?
Oh, someone has been watching my videos. That was true. That was true, but I stay young by rubbing fetuses across my skin and absorbing those stem cells, getting myself nice and young.
What's wrong with just the semen of a young twink?
Oh, I mean, I think the semen of a young twink's quite effective, but you can't beat the stem cells there, honey. You know, plenty of nutrients in them. I'll tell you this. I'm somewhere between the ages of 20 and I don't know how old I am. I'm just whatever. But I'll tell you what. I at my age now, I'm thinking twinks. Twinks are getting more and more attractive as I go up the scale. The thing about bears, there's too much masculinity, and I'm coming to the conclusion that having a lot of body hair and these signs of toxic masculinity are a problem, and I think we need to address that in the LGBTQ community. That it's great that we all suck cocks, but we cannot allow toxic masculinity like lots of body hair to linger around. That's a problem.
Is Comet Pizza, are they twink friendly there?
Ping pong pizza.
I was just saying that you were talking about sperm, and supposedly some people say that sperm has a magical effect. Do you believe that sperm has a magical effect to make you younger?
Well, when it comes out of a TJ, it does, honey. I just glitter. That's how it's all perfuming and glittery. That's what it's like for me. So
I read this really strange book. It's called White Man's Philosophy by Emily Lynch. And she's supposedly this Asian American. In one chapter, she explains that being a white man ejaculating on her face makes her feel more white, as if white man's semen makes her more white. Do you think there's some weird interracial thing going on there, or do you think that's the work of a troll?
Wow, that is actually a brilliant statement. I think there's something to be said about that. And you know what? It's coming down to the point where I think that there's just a problem with white people and anything that comes inside of them or outside of them. I'm really, and I think that anything that has white people in it is a problem. Even though race is a social construct and non-existent, wherever we see white people, that we need to chastise them. And I think we need to reduce any activity they have. And even in the LGBTQ community, someone said to me recently, TJ, there's a problem where you've been gulping down all those big black cocks and you're sucking up all that black sperm. Do you realize you're taking potential sperm that could help create more black babies to create a greater, bigger black population and further outnumber the evil cis whites and white males?
But according to that philosophy, supposedly if gay black men were to ejaculate in white man's face, would the black sperm make white men more black, hence not making white patriarchy happen?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not black, but I have a little black in me every other night. I'll tell you that right now, honey. The way I see it is that look at all those sperms I've been chomping down. I'm basically aiding to black genocide. Why am I? I think I have to realize, what should I be doing? Maybe LGBTQ sex is great. It's a good way of reducing the white population. But it's also, if I'm taking black cock, what am I doing? Those sperms could help create more black people, which are great to outnumber white people to create a more moral society. So I'm constantly in this state of anxiety and terror, and it's not easy being me. I'm just constantly going back and forth. What can I do that's more equal than the other? It's not easy. Now, you're all alt-left, correct? You all kind of call yourselves alt-lefties?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
If you had to describe now, alt-left is very vague and ambiguous, kind of like alt-right. Alt-right and can embody so many things.
Do you identify with the alt-right?
Do I sound like a right-winger to you, sweetie?
Well, accordingly, you post a lot of Ramsey Paul videos. That's actually how I found out about you. You seem to get top comments on Ramsey Paul videos, and then these racist types go over to your video. How do you explain that?
Free advertisement, honey. Ramsey Paul is free advertising for the liberal revolution, and he really hates me.
Did you have to blow him to get on his YouTube channel?
That's actually one of the statements I made in his videos. That he is my former lover, and he was my daddy at one time. And I'll be frank, Ramsey Paul hates me. I've been to the grapevine, and he really doesn't like me, to be all honest and seriousness here. Okay.
Why doesn't he like you?
He doesn't. First of all, he just thinks I'm a troll, and secondly, he says he doesn't find me funny. But I'm not trying to be funny. I'm dead serious all the time. I don't understand if people think I'm being sarcastic.
At first, Liberal Revolution. At first, I thought that you were a dupe account, like a trolling. But I hear the sincerity in your voice. It's a wonderful thing.
It takes time, and everyone eventually realizes that I am a hardcore leftist liberal, and it takes time to realize that. But there is absolutely 110% sincerity in everything I say and do. There is no irony. But it's interesting that I made a video entitled "Germans Are Racist," and I addressed how racist Germans are because me and my boyfriend, I have to say it, ex-boyfriend Ronaldo, went to Germany for a little holiday, and we were meeting the German people, and we found people had names like Adolf. And I started screaming at this man whose name was Adolf, and I said, "How dare you go with a name like that?" And this was the basis of the video. It's been censored in Germany, Switzerland, all across the world now. It's been actually by EU law. It's been blocked from various sections under the Germany has various treaties with. And, it's funny that what's his name again? Gregor. No. He was a German college professor, and he made a video calling Germans in general Nazis, and it's great that Germans don't have birth rates anymore, and we can now replace them with members from the Middle East. And he made he's a big activist and college professor. His videos have not been taken down in Germany. He's celebrated. Why am I being targeted for saying the exact same thing?
It seems. Have you been into activism, or have been in a protest recently, or are you kind of the activism on the internet?
My evil cis cousin that you talked to last time.
Cut Dave. Or
yeah. Interesting fact, he actually, when he was in his high school and late teen years, went to several Mumia Abu Jamal rallies and hung out around some of those crews that were in the kind of Marxist circles. And he said to me that's where he realized that all the left were complete insane idiots and morons who supported mass totalitarianism and genocide while hiding behind egalitarian agendas and seemingly social justice, like socially, caring positions, but it was really a mask and a cloak. My response was, "You're just an idiot, shut up." But that's actually what his experience was, he said. So yeah, he used to actually, he wanted to be a part of those crowds, my cousin. He wanted to be a part of those crowds and help out with their causes. And then he realized they're just a bunch of fucking assholes. And I said, well, that's how he...
Do you think that white people should be a part of those causes?
I think white people need to know their place in society, and their place is to support people of color and people who are downtrodden and need help. And that's the only thing they should be doing. And by supporting, they need to shut their mouths close them tightly and stand in the back and just be in there in solidarity. And if someone needs like a doormat, or someone doesn't want to step in a puddle, they should lay down and put their faces down and turn themselves into doormats so people can wipe their feet off when they go in and out of our conference centers and things like that. Basically that. But yes, people without color should be involved. Unless you're a real genius person like Anita Sarkeesian or me, then we're part of the hierarchy. And people say, that doesn't make sense. You said white people should be stepped on. All animals are equal, but some animals are. Finish it for me, Pilleater.
I can't.
More equal.
More equal than others?
I don't know that. I'm sorry.
Smart friends in the room.
I'm sorry.
Pilleater, you big dummy. You illiterate moron.
Sorry.
Thank goodness we got your smart friends here.
Okay. I know I'm privileged, so.
Hey, I have a question, TJ. So I was wondering, you are a homosexual queer man, and you think whites are a problem. Have you thought about maybe stopping to steal the seed of black men and instead spreading HIV to kill white homosexuals?
Oh wait, Harlem, isn't that like your story about the migrants?
Yeah, so I lied slightly when I said that I'd sucked my friend's dick once. So I am a straight white male. And to be honest, I know TJ, we're at opposite ends of the pool, so to speak, but I am a white nationalist, and long story short, I became addicted to having gay butt sex with migrant men. And the way I've coped with it is by spreading AIDS to non-whites. Maybe you could use this tactic against people like me.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was pondering that early this morning.
Are you positive also?
Yeah, I've addressed that in some past videos. I've finally gotten a gift that keeps giving. I'm really proud of it. I embrace it. You want to know why we should embrace STDs? Because I'm not xenophobic and I'm not microphobic. So if we're really about upping the ante. That's what we do in the left these days. We should, if we don't want to be afraid of people coming into our countries, we should be afraid of microbacterias entering our bodies, because all life is precious and wonderful unless it's a fetus, because it's not alive. And we should just let these things come in, and because what are we anyways? We're a collection of cells and organisms. That's what a human body is. What's wrong with a few others coming on in? Don't be mean. Just because they're not up to par with the rest of your microbes and other things in your body doesn't mean you can't give them also a chance. Angela Merkel said we have to accept that
antibiotics are a form of genocide.
What did you just say?
Do you think antibiotics are a form of genocide?
That is a good point. Yes, they are. Now that you mention it, I didn't think about this before. Yes, you're hurting new incoming migrants that come into your body. So isn't that wrong? It's kind of like what is ICE in the United States? It's antibiotics, and it's hurting new microbacteria. If we're going to use this in an analogy, new microbes coming in. So if I don't like ICE and I don't like this, having immigration control in a country, why would I like antibiotics? That's a good point. I hate them.
Do you think we should let in Muslim immigrants if they're homophobic?
Well, here's the thing. It's not their fault they're homophobic, because Europe and United States and Western patriarchal systems have, caused that somehow. So how else will they come and accept egalitarianism if they don't come into the West? However, isn't that confusing because the West is so oppressive and evil? I'm going to read a message I just got. You're going to love this. This is a message that I just got. I saw on my cousin Dave's Facebook, and he was talking about all the things he hates about ISIS and how they're going to have a ploy to destroy North America. And what's her name here? Edstrom. Marina Edstrom, she's an aspiring actress and model from L.A., said, America nor Germany are innocent countries. The West needs to stop jumping into Middle Eastern issues for selfish gain. Refugees are welcome. Getting involved in destabilizing governments to have more control over resources is fucked up and will only lead to getting bit in return. Americans are far more in danger from fellow Americans than they are ISIS. All religion is scary, though. As a woman, I trust none of them. And my cousin Dave said, empty head and a pretty face. You will go far in L.A., darling. Find yourself a casting couch soon. Looks fade, you moron. What
That's
a horrible
disgusting. Why would he say that?
Because he's a right-wing
Fucked up.
asshole who's into stuff like, like ethno and civic nationalism, and he believes in like all these ideas of masculinity and protecting your nation and race and blah 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 blah. And he's an asshole.
It's I was just thinking that it seems it seems to me that if we were to have a correct liberal society, everyone is included in this liberal society, right? But it seems to me that there's so much oppression and patriarchy and cisgendered white males. How are they just supposed to die, or are they supposed to accommodate with this new egalitarian utopian society we're going to have in like the next 10 years or so?
Did you see that post? I forget his name. It was a college professor who suggested mass suicide for all white people.
Well,
did you ever?
I mean, there's Noah Gevney.
I heard about him.
Noah Ignatieff?
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, some people could write that off as being snarky or joking, but let's get down to it. Doesn't the kind of the modern status quo left actually really think that underneath it all? Because let's get down to it. When I sit around and rail on European white and Christian society all day, all night, 24/7, and say nothing redeeming about them, doesn't that lead you to the conclusion that they're all scum, and ultimately what would be the solution but die? Because if I say that, this society is responsible for genocide, killing, degradation, with no redeemable quality, that leads especially young, college students and young people to come to the conclusion that, you should all die.
What do you think a world would be like without white people?
I think everyone in Africa would basically be in time machines and blasting off through outer space, and we would all have anti-gravity moon boots so we could walk around and fly through the sky, and everyone would be happy. And we'd ultimately, like an Isaac Asimov story, all collect into one mass computer, like a multivac, and we would all just become one conglomerate of information and zeros and ones and blur together. I think it would be a wonderful, wonderful existence.
Pilleater, what was that story you were telling about how all the sperm coming together and like making like one like superhuman? Can you explain that story?
We had a talk basically about Japanese porn. We talk about bukkake. And supposedly a lot of, especially in Japan, prostitution and escorting is quite common. And then sometimes when the girls consent to bukkake film, there's like about 50 men who ejaculate on her face. And supposedly either she has a relationship with all the guys in the room or accepts the sperm on her face. Maybe, like we were saying, the sperm and ejaculation, maybe sperm has something to do with making her more Japanese. But however, she's kind of the motherly... You might put this in a liberal view. She's kind of like the yellow feminist because, if that's the right term, she's a feminist because she's taking all this sperm in from all these men and taking them in, and they're all going through her body, and maybe all the sperm will congregate and make this super baby like from Space Odyssey 2001, and she'll create the bukkake baby and the ultimate being of mankind. Now, for the context of multicultural and diversity, let's suppose we have like a white man and let every single race on the planet ejaculate on his face, making him... The sperm has magic, right? So they'll get Chinese sperm on his face and black sperm, and then maybe it'll make the super multicultural baby liberal revolution's talking about.
Pilleater, can you set this up for me? I want to be that yellow feminist. Can you make it happen?
Liberal revolution, have you ever been bukkake'd?
You know what? I've done so many things. Me and my ex-boyfriend Bernie used to take a soft... You know when you go to the batting cages, the batting cage gun that shoots at the balls?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We used to put all kinds of crazy stuff in those and fire him into our asses, but that ended badly because he perforated his colon and died as a result.
You put Vaseline over it and you throw some potatoes and it explodes. Might get in your eye, too. Yeah, it got really crazy. Bukkake, I can't say I've done it. That's a shame. I'm really ashamed because, in this society, like, we have all these men...
You're being Japanophobe by not engaging in bukkake.
Well, no, I'm embracing it. I just been, I've been oppressed. I've been in a society where people think having a good job or getting a degree in engineering means something, or, I'm around people like my cousin Dave who goes off supporting, Christian militias in the Middle East in the front lines. He thinks that's his idea, his standard of greatness. and I'm not around enough people who can really show me how, you know, the virtues we should be. That's the mark. That's the measuring stick, I think, of greatness, is how much cum you can accumulate on your mug at one time. And I really feel like an underachiever right now.
Have you ever tossed a dude salad?
Oh, yes. Yes, that has been done. That has been done. I mean, yeah. I'm thinking of my cousin Dave, who's really he likes booty. He likes female booty. Sometimes if the price is right, yeah.
It's weird because I'm kind of the prude. I like to talk about sex, but I really don't engage in this promiscuous sexual activity. Are you inciting or advocating that in a free world everyone can have promiscuous and free sex?
All out fuckathon, honey. That is how we build a better society, when we all just whip it out and we all just sit there and we go on an all out fuckathon. You know, it was Sam Hyde that said this, though. I don't know if you guys know the character Sam Hyde.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He said he said in one of his little bits, he said that AIDS is God's way of putting your ass in check. He said, which I don't find funny, was offensive. But yeah, I mean, he said nobody can fuck that much. I mean, there has to be a point where God says, you've had enough, and now you got AIDS, bitch.
You know, it's funny because we're talking about, you know, the philosophy of the future and how, you know, liberalism will change our lives in the next, hopefully maybe next year or two, the Cultural Revolution will come. But however, there's still quote-unquote problematic things in society. Like I was just talking about yellow feminism. Now, accordingly, there's this writer named, there's this blogger named Eurasian Writer. He talks about quote-unquote yellow feminism, but it doesn't mean the feminism that like you're really talking about, liberal evolution, because accordingly, yellow feminism only applies to Asian women, and they believe they have to destroy the Asian patriarchy in Asian males so they can go out with white men. And then that obviously in a conundrum creates Asian women liking white males and then upholding the white patriarchy.
Doesn't that create a new Eurasian race?
Yeah, and supposedly Eurasian Writer, he hates that kind of stuff. But at the same time, then there's this talk saying that yellow feminism will create this kind of maybe Asian Aryan thing. But how are you supposed to... It seems like when we create these new culture wars, like the alt-right, how are you supposed to, you know, accept the alt-right if we all know they're innate racist and neo-Nazis?
Well, you know, that's the thing. Are we going to judge people by their skin color or their philosophy? I think we know inherently that white people are evil and bad. And, you know, I love the concepts you're talking about, creating this Asian hybrid of, you know, European, Aryan, Asian. But I'm 50-50 on it. The reason I'm 50-50 is I like the Asian part, but I hate the white part.
That's what I'm saying.
And maybe, could there be like some sort of Japanese harikari involved with this? Like, you know, like maybe the Asian females could take the white males after they bred with them and devour them like a praying mantis and chomp into their heads. This could really, you know, at least now we kill two birds with one stone. We take care of their semen. We lowered this white race. We chomp into their heads and kill them and get them out of the picture. Now what do we do with their children? Now their children are mixed race. I guess it's more virtuous because Barack Obama's mixed race and we all love him. And isn't it interesting that when a person like Barack Obama, he's black when it's convenient, but he is all of a sudden mixed race when it's convenient. So I think maybe Asian people become the same way.
So you're saying that yellow feminists should be like praying mantises, and when they get with their white husbands, rather they should eat them, and that reoccurs.
Eat them.
Okay.
Eat them. Eat the rich.
Interesting.
Do you hate white patriarchy more than you hate capitalism?
Ooh, that's a toughie. You know what? It's funny. It's that, I've gone in these communism and anarcho-communism forums, and they seem really focused more on economics than anything in most cases. But it's about 25% I hate the white patriarchy, and the rest is like all about like capitalism. That's an interesting concept. I think the average liberal like me is, you know, the whole concept of politics and economics hurts my head. They use a lot of big words, so I think it's easier just to hate, people for being part of what I, consider to be the white patriarchy. I think it's a close one, but we'll have to say white patriarchy, won't we? If we just look at the trends in society now.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. What are you supposed to do with like Asian patriarchy and other Is it only just white patriarchy, or?
Well, that's the thing. We don't criticize that very often, do we? When it, like, for instance, let's talk about, the Islamic patriarchy or the patriarchy throughout North Africa and the Middle East. I wouldn't call it a patriarchy. I would call it a culture. I would call it a wonderful culture. Japanese patriarchy, what's that? It's a culture. I'm really only geared and conditioned to attack Western patriarchy. If it's not European or descendant of European or an offshoot of, white European culture, I really don't have a grievance. Isn't that interesting?
It certainly makes you a unique individual. And
unique? Where have you been, Pilleater? You had your head in the sand?
Everyone's special. I understand that, but in a society, you got to make sure that everyone's special, but everyone also has a say too. But no longer it doesn't conflict with other ideals, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think this is the case. Okay, let's look at it like this. There's a city called Kingston, Jamaica. I don't know if you guys knew about this place. It's a little place that my cousin Dave has experience in. And in this place, Kingston, Jamaica, if you went back to, like, let's say the 1960s, 70s, there was about close to a 15% Jamaican Chinese community population. Size maybe less, maybe around 10%, but a sizable community, right?
Yeah.
Well, this Jamaican Chinese community is now down to around 1% of the entire country. Well, that's due to basically their shops and businesses being firebombed, their houses being burned down, and people beating the living shit out of them and chasing them down with machetes. So most of them have left. And now
it's funny because I actually have a good close friend of mine who's Jamaican Chinese, actually, who I know in real life.
You get him on the show right now?
No, she's not on the show. She's in school right now, or she's on break, but
I would love to chat her up and say, Wagwan Miguel.
Okay, but
go down there with them little Pilleater.
I'm kind of a geek because I'm not Yellow Man, or I'm not Jamaican in that sense, but
I like my hamburgers with what? Lots and lots of ketchup.
Interesting.
You don't even listen to Yellow Man, right?
Yeah, I remember Yellow Man. I mean, I'm just.
Oh, you have.
Yes, I have. I like Yellow
Man. I met Yellow Man actually a couple years ago in what was it, Norman Manley Airport.
Is he albino or is he a white person?
He's albino. He's completely and really interesting character. He's so fun and funny, and he's eccentric and crazy guy. Yeah, but back on what I was talking about. Now, see, what happened was the white population had diminished and become so unobtainable that everyone focused their hatred on the Chinese. Isn't that interesting? Now, let's fast forward to the 1990s. 1990, was it 91, the Rodney King beating?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at a lot of parts of Compton and South Central Los Angeles and those areas, most of the black neighborhoods had very few whites in them. What do they have in a plethora of?
Koreans, yeah.
Yes, Korean and Chinese businesses and people. So where did the hatred go towards? Korean and Chinese people primarily. Of course, some whites got a little bit of the shit end of the stick. But so here's the thing: when they're done, when we're done picking the bones of white patriarchal male society, when we're done ravaging and cannibalizing and ripping them apart, we're gonna focus our anger on you Asians, because you people are just making too much money and having what we'll then consider Asian privilege. At the moment, I think you're safe. Yeah. At this time period. But here's the thing. When the white population dips below 25%, you people are going to start getting in the crosshairs.
So you agree with what the Rugman says on the Gavin McInnes show when he was debating that evil racist man, Jared Taylor, that the whites and Asians are behind the patriarchy.
I know when the Eurasian shooter, you know what I'm talking about.
Elliot Rogers.
Yeah, the media said he had white privilege after his manifesto.
I mean, so as long as you have white identity or related to white
Did
people,
he?
you're
I mean,
racist, right?
you read his manifesto. Did he
Yeah.
talk about white identity in his novel and his manifesto?
He talks about that he belongs in two different worlds, and he wished he could love the girls but they didn't understand him because he was different, and he tried, but it failed. But there's a lot of sympathy.
Was he an Asian Aryan?
I'm trying to.
Yes, he was.
I'm trying to make. Okay, yeah. For now, he is. I think he is. But I'm actually reading my Twisted World again, and actually trying to further write something on that, either through a YouTube video that'll be, or even in my book. So at that current time, I'm actually doing research on the subject. So for now, I guess we can call him an Asian Aryan. But it's sad because it's so tragedy that he doesn't have children and he kills people.
Wait, say that again?
Who kills people again?
Elliot Rodger. He shot.
Elliot Rodgers. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the writer who was talking about. Excuse me. Yeah, Elliot Rodgers. You do notice most of the leftist media and people like me in the left were completely blaming the British half of his ancestry. We thought that was the component that led to the mass shooting. We don't think it was the Asian half. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, because it's if he was an Asian Aryan, then obviously I guess that would mean he'd be on his more Asian side. But according to liberal evolution, that would mean that you can't forgive him simply because he's white, and his white interest basically caused him to kill all those people.
Yeah, but then, I think over time, then, like, it's kind of like I told you before on the show, it's a big totem pole. It's a constant game of rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And basically white cis males are at the bottom of the totem pole. Above them are white cis females, and above them are the LGBTQ people who are plagued with lack of melanin. And we keep going up the scale. And then there's Asians, and it depends. We'll rearrange.
Where do you fit in?
I fit in as the most oppressed person on the face of this planet, but not as much as people of color. But so it's kind of like rock, paper, scissors. Depending on the situation, I'm extremely oppressed. But next to people of color, like specifically people of African derivation, they are the kind of the paramount, the pinnacle of oppression. We need to all bow down.
Are you cisgender?
Absolutely not. I am non-binary, gender fluid, LGBTQ, X, Y, and Z, LMNOP, and I'm two-spirited. I try to be almost every gender and pronoun and sexualty there is under the sun.
Do you have like the both? Are you hermaphrodite, like with the both body parts?
Well, let me put it like this: I spend a lot of time tucking my genitals in between my legs to kind of, put myself into more of an effect, and go to different.
Do you have like a big hairy bush?
I actually, yeah, I shaved it a few times.
Oh, like the little. Did you do the thing with like the little heart shaved in?
No, I did a little air strip.
Oh yeah.
A little air strip. I had a partner that really wanted me to shave it down, and so I did that on a few occasions. But it itches. It itches like crazy, doesn't it?
Do you have crabs?
I've had itching quite a few times. I never really checked it out to see what was the cause. It resolves itself usually, and within time.
What do you think about like bug catching, where homosexual men go out and intentionally get HIV?
Oh, going back to my point before, if we're not xenophobic, we shouldn't be microphobic. I mean, it's just it's a secession. It's an evolution into a greater state of enlightenment, in my opinion. They have reached the pinnacle and the paramount of egalitarian philosophy.
Do you think an HIV virus is of equal worth to a cisgender white male?
Oh, well, I think they really need to have it, and I think it would give them a better worldview and experience. I think, if a cis male has it, it definitely will not make him an oppressed person.
What if they want to have kids, and there's a risk of them passing it on to their future children?
Provided those are not children of color, then quite okay. So going back to your Asian Aryan worldview and vision, provided it doesn't touch people of color. If it stays within white society, then that's positive. I'm just ballparking here.
I would like, Asian Aryanism is. Do you find Aryan problematic?
Me personally?
Yes.
Absolutely. Anything that, from what I understand is the term Aryan goes back to Indo-European groups and like the ancient, what is now modern day Iran. And it was a term that basically translated to noble people. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it kind of translates to a great people or a noble people.
Elliot Rogers says it's the supreme gentleman.
The supreme gentleman. I remember him saying that over and over, going, I'm the supreme gentleman, ladies. How could you not like me? I've got $500 sunglasses.
Would you?
Oh, by the way, I got to mention something. If you go back to my archives with my videos, I'm actually drinking a mocha latte. And I said, drinking my organic chai latte, and I sip it, and I go, it really pumps me up. That was inspired by Elliot Rogers, but just a little thing. I thought it was just so arrogant to kind of sip it and would really.
Oh, I always drink chai lattes. Those are my favorite.
Yeah, the vanilla chai latte, I believe, is his drink.
Oh, I prefer the spice ones.
Well, let's just say this. Let me get it down to this, okay? Now, if I was someone who's a cis normie, if I was a normie, this is what I would say: that Asian people in small numbers greatly do very good at simulating around most cultures and societies they're in. Whether it's European, white, whatever, they're very good at assimilating and learning the languages and the customs, whilst in some cases, if their numbers are large enough, maintaining their own kind of ethnic and cultural identity to some extent. But they do a very good job of assimilation. And when you see like a small demographic, which historically Asians have been a fairly small minority in North America at large, they assimilate very well. They do very well in society. And in small numbers, they get along with other groups, specifically Europeans and North Americans, very, 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 very well. But, if I was a cis normie who had nationalist views, I would be afraid if they came in very large numbers, because then they can start mechanizing and kind of really economically mechanizing and becoming a powerhouse. And
do you think it's a great thing that the Chinese colonization of Africa?
No, that's terrible, because going back, African people are on the top of the ladder. So that really disturbs me and it upsets me. It was interesting. I was in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and I met these Iranian American girls who were hanging out, and these tourists, and they were commenting on how disturbed they are that and currently in the past decade or so, there's been a massive migration of Chinese from China, not Jamaican Chinese, but Chinese from China, migrating into Jamaica in exponential numbers. And they have, again, owning a lot of businesses. This is due to China having a lot of influence right now in Jamaica's economy and politics. And there's a large migration. They're starting shops and businesses. And some of these Iranian American girls talk about how disturbed they were that there's all these Chinese all over Jamaica. And I thought, shouldn't Americans be as disturbed that there's a bunch of Iranian people all over New York? I didn't say that. But, this is the reaction that people like me and the left get. It's like, this isn't right. Jamaica's a place with black people. Black people should rule the businesses.
Well, wouldn't there be less crime if Chinese people were the dominant group there?
That sounds very racist, and I'm very offended by that statement. Crime happens everywhere. Everywhere we have murders and crime. Are you now insinuating that we don't have crime in all countries?
Okay.
Everything's the same.
This is a safe space. So it's a safe space, so it's okay if you cry.
All right. Well, anyways, would there be less crime? What my natural reaction is that violence happens everywhere, and everything's the same, and crime is absolutely nothing changes, and statistics are racist, and we need to outlaw statistics and demographics and blah blah blah. I don't know. Well, the fact is, but probably you're right. Yeah, maybe there would be, but that's not what's important. What's important is equality. I saw a great statement. I was surfing around OkCupid and saw a feminist profile, and the girl on it said, her personal pronoun, it was girls / 5 other things. And she said, and I quote, "I'm not interested in equality, I'm interested in liberation." This is the next step of the left. You realize this. We're done with all this equality bullshit. We're ready just to basically say we hate you and you're the reason for our oppression, and by any means necessary, we're ready to overthrow it. Isn't that kind of how things are going right now?
I mean, with the whole I would say on the alt-left, it's more, yes, it's anti-egalitarian in some respects because equality doesn't actually mean, the left. Sometimes there are equality left-wing people, but there are anti-equality left-wing people. And like you just said, there's the whole liberation and overthrow and revolution.
What about the whole thing, like the left wing of the alt-right, like kind of like Rabbit's alt-left, which is like having left-wing values, but in a white society? Like, could you get on board with that?
Me?
Yeah, like having a society that's like 90% white, but with like left-wing values like homosexuality and environmentalism and
I already have that because, like, basically, if you notice, people like me, we all moved to like hipster towns that are like 90% white, and we feel so enthralled when we have like a little like ethnic restaurant from Somalia open up, and we feel, woo, we're so superior now, and we just need more of this. But once more of that happens, we all like jump ship and then go to another place that's like 90% white. That's kind of how we function.
I would say that in these cities, whenever an Asian restaurant shows up, all the white men take the Asian girls and then call it that's the benefit of multicultural diversity. They're not taking the Somalian women as wives. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but more, I guess the same parallel. I mean, more often could be. Well, I'm just talking about, yeah. Hey, look, I'm virtuous because I'm eating at an African or Caribbean restaurant. Ooh, I'm virtuous. Yeah, but more often, yes, Asian restaurants. I notice hipsters love Thai places and Asian restaurants.
Oh, yes. Definitely, yeah.
And as a hipster, I love Thai places and Asian restaurants.
And the women are nice too, and the men, and the Katoi.
Yes, thank you for including that. I was about to rip your head off.
Have you ever been with one of their lady boys?
Me?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you a little story. My alter ego had this almost like fiance. He was staying from Thailand, and he was getting this awesome blue job. And his Thai girlfriend looked up and said, "Wow, this dick is like bigger than mine." And he said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And, but, things were fine. They continued on. And then one day she said to him, "When we get to Thailand, I show you all the places where all the lady boys are." And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Why were you interested in lady boys?" And she said, "I think you like all the things I can show you about lady boys." Anyways, to this day, he's left with suspicions and terror and fear. And...
Well, that's being closed-minded. I mean, that's homophobic. Yeah.
He's a homophobic asshole. But the fact is that, like, if you
anyone who doesn't get a blowjob from a ladyboy is a vicious homophobe.
Well, he told me that they had plenty of intercourse, but the vagina was very shallow, and it made him suspicious. But
so it was like a giant clit.
He has blocked a lot of this out, I think. It's traumatized him. But so, in the end, if you're with a Thai lady boy, there's a good chance you wouldn't even know it. So I'm thinking to myself, this is just not okay. It's too feminine. I've been looking at a lot of this gender fluid stuff going on. I was walking on the street of Portland, Maine this past summer and saw this beautiful looking young woman, late teens, with a beard. And I was like, holy shit, that is great. We're really moving up in society.
Well, our long-term goal shouldn't it be to abolish gender altogether?
I've gone back and forth. Should we just turn ourselves into this homogeneous, like, hermaphrodite-like group? Because that would really get rid of all the disparaging problems we have between the genders. Or should we just mix it up to the point, what I think the left is about right now is confusing the fuck out of everyone so that we can never have a coherent dialogue or discussion. We are about making things so difficult for you. You're so hung up on talking about pronouns for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, that you never get to the meat of an argument or conversation. Everything's digressed into yelling and screaming and saying that you're offended, that we never get anywhere with the dialogue. And I think that's the right way to go.
I know. I mean, yeah, I just think, like, maybe these alt movements are definitely intellectual, internet-only culture things that are happening. And I think today there's so much in our mainstream culture where people do have to check their privileges and check their stuff, and it becomes problematic, and we ought to make sure Lib Revolution that people are accordingly and they have to follow those things.
Pilleater, can you explain to Liberal Evolution the two erotic scenes that happen in my book? Don't give away the plot, just explain how the scenes work.
Alright. Well, Robert and me, we like this one kind of gay film director named Lasse Nielsen. He had this film called You Are Not Alone. He's kind of a Scandinavian director, wrote these coming-to-age films, but he likes talking about Swedish, I think it's Swedish, right? I'm just going to say Scandinavian, blonde-haired white men, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who are in the shower naked together, and it's very sexual, and you might find it erotic, Liberal Evolution. And so
no, I think it's too it's not diverse enough for him.
Okay, but it's gay, and so there's this one scene where the main character in Stark's book will get humiliated by these characters who look like Lasse Nielsen actors, and they torture him, and they show their dicks at them, and it's this kind of homoerotic scene, and that's the first sex scene. However, later on in the book, he will grow up and become really strong, and then he'll get dominated by these multicultural cast of girls that overtake him.
What's their ethnicities?
Yes.
Can you explain what their ethnicities are and what they do?
We thought there'd be a Japanese and her sister, maybe an Indian American, maybe a blonde-haired girl, maybe Jewish Nordic looking, maybe a black girl in there. We haven't added in there, but we should.
No, I don't think I've added that in. And what
you guys are writing a book,
yes,
Robert?
We are.
Really?
Let's not give away the plot. But
when is it coming out?
Probably later in the late spring. But let's not give away too much of the plot. But tell Liberal Evolution what they do to him.
Well, for the male scene in the first, when he's real young, they torture him and he gets humiliated, and he remembers it. He's basically raped. But however, later on, when he grows up and he becomes masculine, this time the women empower him. And remember, he's still a virgin, and then they play with his dick and do stuff, including making them forced to eat their asses and vaginas, and he gets to taste all these different races. Kind of like the Bukake baby we were talking about earlier on. But in this novel sense, he is trying to embrace these different cultures. When compared when he was younger, he was kind of raped by these overpowered men. Now, in the later scene, he's a powerful man, but being raped by these powerful women of different countries.
Fucking shit!
Huh? What are you doing?
Fuck!
Are you... Stop.
Pilleater! Oh my Obama! I just drained them both, and I busted my nuts. Does that shit get you two off? Let me ask you. Seriously.
I don't know. I'm kind of the prude.
When you write this shit, don't you?
It was my idea.
I'm kind of a prude.
Joking. That is hot.
But I wrote the
Are you going to buy the book when it comes out?
You bet your bottom dollar I will.
I know it's pornographic, but it's no way like Peter Soto's child pornographic, but more kind of playful erotic with a mix of all that in. So,
all right, didn't you guys big Japophiles here, and you know so much about Asian stuff? Explain that to me. What is it with anime? And it's like something going back to this section of my personality who dated a Thai woman way back when. She made him watch Amazing Teacher. Amazing Teacher. Do you guys know Amazing Teacher?
I think I might know. Is that where there's is there like he has a daughter too? She has a daughter, or
what episode I was subjected to?
Is it Amazing Teacher or Bad Teacher?
I think it translated to Amazing Teacher, and it was all subtitled. And it was about this young teacher, kind of in his 20s, and it's like a high school teacher, and he's constantly in situations that almost are like sexual, but never actually gets anywhere, with all these like high school students, like between 15 and 16, putting like their like panties in his face, and he's like, oh, like every 5 minutes.
Do you think that it's a great injustice that a lot of people go to jail for engaging in that in this country?
Pedophilia?
Yeah.
You know, that, like I said, that really is something that, you know, we in the left go back and forth on. If I was a cis normal normie, I would say people need to be putting a fucking bullet in their head and put in prison for that shit. But since I'm not, I'm like, well, you know, there's ways of having, ethical pedophilia. I mean, after all, they're pedophiles are victims. That's kind of the zeitgeist now. That's the ethos, the way the left is going. If you pay attention, like Salon and all these outlets, they're really pushing for that. So in time, since people are so socially engineered, they basically look to mass media outlets as their moral compass and guide. They don't go to churches. They don't listen to priests. They don't listen to their mothers and fathers. People have turned, again, the patriarchy. They turn to their mothers and fathers. So they go by media. So Salon pushes it hard enough, and they even though they face some resistance, the more they push it, within another decade, people will go that route and think that, oh, pedophiles are actually victims. And again, that's why I keep going back to my ethical form of pedophilia. Let's fuck fetuses. I call it the fetus fucking method, where we just, like, I'm going to make what's called a baby belt, and I take a little fetus and I strap it into front of my pants. And every time I get an erection throughout the day, it pops right into it. And I just, you change it daily, you get a new one. And so why are we throwing fetuses away? Why are they going in garbage cans? These things could be used for so many great things, But again, why is this so big in Japan? Are Japan secretly into pedophilia? What's going on?
I think from what I've learned is that there is an obsession with youth between the ages of, early teens and not even early 20s, just teens, because it is the being accepted into an older society. And basically, supposedly there's this ideal in Japan that if you're like 15, you're automatically considered to have the potential as an adult, and it's the start of your life, or your life, your self-actualization. So in Japan, they really fetishize that, is because if, like a cherry blossom, where the trees fall from the blossom, and then...
Is that like, are you, Pilleater, are you familiar with the lolicon?
Yeah, and that's basically like anime of just flat-chested little girls who look cute and kitty as possible.
Has Soto's ever written about lolicon?
I think so, yeah. In Selfish Little, he makes a reference that in Japan, I think even in Index, I think that's even older, he'll reference that there's this weird lolicon market, and yet at the same time they'll actually delve into Western child pornography and reference it or something, and then they can get some of the Japanese laws actually they go above the law, and it's what considered illegal here is kind of legal, but they get away with it.
I heard someone got arrested for importing that from Japan to Canada.
Yep.
But the Canadians, I mean, they're becoming very Japanophobic. That's an extremely racist act to ban someone for having lolicon.
What do you say, liberal evolution?
Ban Japanese people. Well, I don't think we're at the point where we can turn on Japanese yet. That's racist and wrong. That's my knee-jerk reaction. It's really hard for me to take these positions sometimes. But, in the end, I think, why don't we try to understand? Like, Pilleater's been explaining to me all the culture behind it. And now that I understand, it's called, this is my, I talk about this in one of my videos. I had a friend named Ruby. Ruby was from a family of full-blown communists. And I'm not kidding you. And they were actually, her whole family were very good friends with Noam Chomsky on top of it. And, this friend we had was playing Jars of Clay. Do you guys know who Jars of Clay is, the Christian rock band?
Yeah, I do. DC
Talk. He was playing Jars of Clay, and Ruby wigged out and said, "Stop playing that stupid Christian shit around us." Whipped the tape out and then popped in Bob Marley and the Wailers. And like the songs were like basically, "We are forever every job." She's all rocking out to it. And she was basically making a point. She didn't want to hear religious shit. And then, I pointed out, Ruby, it's kind of interesting. You're listening to Bob Marley and the Wailers, and they're going on song after song quoting Bible parables and talking about loving God, Jah. And she goes, yeah, but that's cultural. It's cultural. So I guess when a white American is into, or, a white person from wherever is into Christian music, then that's stupid and needs to be smashed upon. But, if something is taboo for white people, it's not necessarily taboo for other cultures. So I think it's okay that, like, you go to Kenya and Nigeria and in many Islamic countries, they marry children and consummate with them as young as 9. Isn't that wonderful? But if a white person did it, that's evil and disgusting. So it's kind of like we can't judge, again, back to...
Do you think if a homosexual does it, it's okay, but if a heterosexual cisgender male does it, it's horrible?
Heterosexual does it, absolutely terrible. Homosexual, again, we need to understand the context. And as our good friend Horkheimer taught us, logic is not independent of content, of context, right? So, which means is logic doesn't apply in all situations. That's literally what we were taught from Columbia University. Logic does not apply in all situations. It only applies within context and pertaining to the content. So now that Pilleater told me this is a wonderful cultural thing, I say that Japanese have carte blanche to do whatever they want with children.
I think it's just an obsession with potential, but I don't know. I think Japanese are also into older people too, and there's this kind of weird older fetish. I mean, it's funny too because some of the women, they never really age. Like, you can go up to a Japanese woman thinking she's in her early 20s, and it turns out she's like 42.
Yeah, my cousin Dave was hitting on this Chinese American woman back in Jamaica, and it turned out she was like 49. He was like, "Oh," he thought they were like peers.
Yep.
Well, I got to tell you guys that, I'll say this. Asian culture is crazy and weird, and I think it's just because, it's so far away and in a different realm from, European people. But I just noticed that, like, a lot of Japanese people, and Americans and people, they just end up being, like as your statement is, very much just getting along and melding together with a lot of white society. They just seem to blend together, and they
isn't that Pilleater? Isn't that what you're trying to achieve with your project?
Well, at least that I know liberal revolution might find this offensive, but I'm going to say this again. I'm not trying to abolish the white race. But the thing is,
you're so racist.
But here's the thing. Here's the catch. You need white people in order to make Asian Aryanism, what I call it, happen, because without, it's either they're going to assimilate into white culture and you say make it, this whole anti-white on the Asian side, but I don't want exactly to be, like you said, they're going to get the Asian patriarchy next, so who cares if it's whites? You're next in the headlights. It's the deer in the headlights. So my ideal is that maybe, like, if whites are to survive in the next, after this multicultural and diverse year, the new white person is pretty much going to be half Asian. But they'll still be whites too. It's just that there's going to be a huge number of these half-white Asian people. And if people are going to be alt-right and it turns out they're HAPA or have an Asian girlfriend or whatever, they're going to have to be called Asian Aryans for that matter.
If you were English, I'd call you Lord Cuckington.
Well, that's the thing, is because I actually had a talk with another friend. I'm not actually kind of advocating. I'm not saying, look, I know liberal revolution, you want to kill white people, so logically you would say, okay, be a cuck and marry Asian. I'm not actually advocating dump whites in favor of Asian girls. I'm saying is that's happening now, and there's a lot of good reasons today why people would dump their crazy white feminist girl in favor for an Asian girlfriend, and they have already did it happen. There's already too many HAPA children right now, and they're a new generation, and they got to decide white, Asian, or lack of better term, Asian Aryan. So
I couldn't hear you over all that tea you were sipping, Lord Cuckington. I'm sorry. I checked out.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I'll say this, is that I think ultimately what you're doing is good, because reducing numbers of whites in any way is positive in my mind. So even if it's just to some extent, it's a short-term goal. mind you, if you better make sure your grade point average stops eclipsing everyone else, because whether you're Asian or mixed Asian, because if you keep that up and you keep overachieving and you keep creating the society of inequality, we're going to get you next. The same way they did in Uganda would happen in Uganda over Idi Amin.
Once again, I know I have privilege, so I'm sorry. I feel guilty, and I'm thinking about all those poor souls I'm torturing. So.
Well, no. Look at the situations. Just look at all, like, you can look at Sierra Leone, you can look at a lot of African nation states that have had substantial numbers of Asian communities prior to this mass Chinese one we're seeing, and Asians have got the shit kicked out of them because they're overachieving inequality bullshit. Asians have gotten the shit kicked out of them in black majority areas of the U.S. and Jamaica. There's actually in Haiti, there was a substantial Chinese minority in Haiti. It kind of began around the 19th century, built up to the 1950s. By the 60s, they've gotten run down to, like, I literally think there's like less than 100 Chinese Haitians, people who identify or are that derivation. Very tiny because, again, they kept open. But here's the thing, get this. If you read some essays and academic papers, the very few that have been done about the Chinese riots in places like Jamaica, people claim that it's because Chinese were too insular and they stayed to themselves and they had their own parties and clubs and various things, and that made people resent them because they were too isolated. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Now, do you buy that?
I think it's true that there are definitely isolated pockets, but once again, if they are near, like, there's this something weird thing I've noticed, especially in Chinese culture and even Japanese culture. They like white people, and I know this might sound racist. They like white people because they represent the ideal figurehead or ideal mandate of heaven. I'm being really cheesy here, but the ideal of perfection. And so there's a lot of Asian families, mom and dad will tell them, go find yourself a white boyfriend or a white husband because I want your children to be white. Now, according to your theory, liberal evolution, I know you don't want them to be white. So I guess I don't know if the word is Eurasian. I don't know if the word is Eurasian. But eventually, the problem I see with that is, let's say they happen, they're going to be associated with their white side anyway, and they're going to be Asian Aryans to begin with. So that probably will happen, and it's something, like, I think it exists right now. Go to any major city with vegan restaurants, art galleries, punk rock shows. You tend to meet a white male, Asian female, or even Asian male, white female couple with HAPA kids, or Chinese American, Japanese American. This cluster of Asian American flirting with whites in these eccentric stuff white people like lands. It's there, and it's growing, and at least what are they supposed to do? And they got 3 sides to choose, and I think the side they should choose should be self-actualized now, and so there's this wordplay going on.
Pilleater, do you like the Boredoms?
Sort of.
You've heard them?
Yes.
Do you know the singer of the Boredoms used to do what's called danger music? I don't know if you've heard of danger music.
Tell me about it again.
Danger music is basically creating either, like, it's structured. It can be structured. It can be insane, but it's basically a chaotic sounds generally that literally will endanger the artist and or the audience. And the singer of the Boredoms used to do danger music.
Yes.
And for one of his performances, the audience was all inside the club in the auditorium, just sitting there, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting, and suddenly the singer of the Boredoms comes out and, like, a bulldozer smashes through the wall of the club.
Okay.
and tries to literally kill the audience. They're all running for their lives. He's smashing everything in the club.
I should look that up. I know about the Boredoms, but yeah, I have to see that. That sounds pretty funny.
It just makes me realize that Asians are literally insane, but someone like me, or I mean my cousin Dave, who grew up around, like, black society, every time he sees, like, his, there would be something that he was interested in or show, but he would see, even now on Facebook, when, like, something like shows, like, a white dude or mountain climbing, speed mountain climbing with no rope, or doing, like, what do you call it, skydiving and parachuting. All his black mates and everyone, from, like, all around the West Indies will always write stuff like, white people are crazy, white people are insane, white people are weird, like, stuff like that. They don't find it impressive. They find it revolting, usually. And so like, and the same thing can be said about Asian people. They're freaking wacky, right? They're crazy. What is this with white and Asian people being so freaking batshit nuts?
They just have bravery or some courageous. I hear some mumbling around. Are you rolling up a blunt or something?
Not me.
Okay, I just hear some rolling around. I don't know what end it's coming from. But I just think they're overall white and Asians are. I guess they have a vigor for life. Same with any other people. I'm not so sure what to say on that.
They're like adventurers. They're like, I must push the boundaries. I kind of mean like I am the Marco Polo of sexual activity. Like I'm looking for the next thrill, but you're always looking for the next horizon. Like I got to conquer that mountain. For me, it's I got to conquer that cock. I got to keep those perimeters. But
we are getting towards the end of the show, but before I wrap things up, Liberal Revolution, what do you see as your ultimate objective in life?
Oh, that is a good question. My ultimate objective is to create as much bitching and whining and complaining and be as offended as possible and see how offended I can be every single day and make everybody bend to my will to appease my narcissism.
So far, have we said anything on the show that offended you?
Well, I would like to think you did, and maybe if you didn't right now, give me a little while, and when I listen back to this, I promise you I'll find something, and you will be hearing from me and my lawyers.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that talk later. Liberal Revolution, it's been a great show. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me.
And also, thank you, Pilleater and HAarlem VEnison.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Thank you, Robert.
All right. Bye-bye.